The following program is made possible by Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo, the next stage.
Silicon Valley is already the center of the tech world. Now it wants to become the center of Bay Area football.
We talk about the 49ers move with South Bay sports advocate Larry Stone. Then tech insider Mark Albertson is here to talk about Apple, the newest electronic gadgets in the state of the valley. The game is Silicon Valley and the game is on.
I'm Bob Marks.
And I'm Mark Simon. Welcome to the game. By day, he's a humble, low-key assessor for Santa Clara County. By night, he's super sports advocate for the South Bay. Larry, you have been, this is Larry Stone, I should say, you have been advocating for a major league franchise in the South Bay for longer than I think either one of us might care to remember. And now it looks like the 49ers are going to come to Santa Clara. Is it, in your mind, a done deal? Because in San Francisco, they want to believe it's not a done deal.
Well, I think if they can put together the right financial package that's acceptable to the city of Santa Clara, they want to be in Santa Clara. That's the best place for them to relocate to. It's unfortunate that they can't stay in San Francisco, but the Candlestick Point site simply does not work. It's too expensive, too long a process. They estimate $500 million worth of infrastructure costs before they build the $600 to $800 million stadium. So I believe that they'll be in Santa Clara. And the only thing that could stop that, I think, is if they couldn't put together a financial package that was acceptable to the voters down there and to the city council.
What kind of financial package are they looking at in Santa Clara that's going to take to make the deal happen?
Well, right now they're doing a financial feasibility study, but I think it'll be based kind of on the Lou Wolf model, and that is using land that's owned by the city.
Lou Wolf, owner of the A's, getting ready to move the team to Fremont.
Correct, and it's very hard to do these deals in California because of the requirements for 2/3 votes and those kind of things. So what's happening is, and Lou's kind of plowed this ground, and I think the Niners are going to follow that model, and that is to buy or lease land that's owned by the city and take their profits for their contribution to the stadium on a later in terms of development rights. And I think that's a model that seems to be working here in California to accomplish things that other states accomplish by a vote of the state legislature, for example.
Larry, I think if this stadium is built, they should build a statue of you outside. As Mark said, you've been doing this a long time, number of efforts with the Giants. Do you ever feel like you're being used in these processes? What's your feeling on that?
Well, no, I've always I'm a sports fan, obviously, yeah. And I've always felt that new ballparks and new stadiums are what's necessary to have to be a major league metropolitan area. If you can learn by failure, I've learned a lot because it's just been a very difficult task. But it looks like it's going to happen, both with the A's coming to Fremont, which is right next door to Silicon Valley, and the 49ers coming to Santa Clara.
Why do this? What difference does it make? I mean, is it that part of that South Bay's constant fear that no one will think they're important if they don't have the trappings of a big league city? Well,
I think to be a major league city or a big league city like San Jose, there's a number of things. You need the arts, the symphony, the ballet. You need a first-class airport and a first-class convention center. We have neither. Those kind of things. And professional sports are just part of that mix. They're not even the most important part of that mix, but it's important for identity, for entertainment value, for a well-rounded mixture of things for people to do in professional sports. Just think what the Sharks have done for the identity of San Jose and Silicon Valley. I mean, you can't buy that kind of identity, and that's important for people to identify with the community that they're in.
But isn't there sort of a visceral sense that the San Francisco 49ers ought to be in San Francisco?
Well, I think they should be. In fact, when they contacted me a year and a half ago, they said, we are looking down here as a backup site. We belong in San Francisco. We expect to stay in San Francisco, but they were doing a financial and project feasibility study, and they were on Candlestick Point, and they were afraid that that would not be successful. So they intended to stay in San Francisco, but everybody's trying to place blame here. They're trying to blame the mayor for losing the San Francisco 49ers. They're trying to blame Dr. York and the ownership of the 49ers for going to Santa Clara. And the only thing to blame is the site. The Candlestick Point site and the Hunters Point site simply do not work compared to what you have in Santa Clara.
And it's important to note there's nowhere else in San Francisco. It's not a big town anyway.
Correct.
In terms of square area.
Correct.
Talk to us a little about the vision for the stadium, the facilities around the stadium. What's that going to look like?
It's just ideal. Number one, for football, the most important things are parking and access. So when you have Candlestick Point, you really have only two ways in and out, no matter what infrastructure costs to improve that access that there's there. And they both empty out into the same freeway less than a mile apart. In Santa Clara, you have Highway 237, Highway 101, 880, a number of ways in and out, which is tremendously important. Light rail literally stops at the front door. You have heavy rail less than a mile away. You've got 40,000 parking spaces in existence now within a mile of the area, including Mission College. And because the 49er games are played primarily on Sundays, there's all kinds of available parking. So the infrastructure largely is there. The convention center's across the street, 3 major hotels right next door: the Hyatt Regency, the Marriott, and the Hilton. So most of the infrastructure and the needs that you have, tailgating and so forth, is an important part of the game day experience for professional football teams, and that's already in existence, rather than having to build it for $500 million at the Candlestick Point site.
The knock on the site is the same knock you hear on Fremont that you used to hear about Oakland. There is no real there. It is not a downtown. It's not an urban environment. Is that a genuine detriment, or is that just something people say because that's the first thing they think of?
Well, you know, sports stadiums, ballparks and stadiums can enhance an area, but they can't drive economic redevelopment. We've seen that at Candlestick Point with Candlestick Park. We've seen that in Oakland. So there's a lot of facilities existing in Santa Clara already, restaurants and bars and so forth that will be enhanced, and there'll be more to be developed on land that's owned by the city, probably going to be leased by the 49ers, you know, to develop and to create, enhance what's there now versus trying to create something new.
We see Dianne Feinstein, Senator Feinstein, Carol Migden, others trying to keep the 49ers in San Francisco. What can they do? I mean, is there anything that they can do that could change this equation?
I think legislatively you can't. I mean, this is a private business. Everybody talks about sports teams and franchises being a business enterprise, and that's what they are. Certainly, you know, the name is owned by the city, by the San Francisco 49ers. And it's very important. You know, the most important thing for a football team that only plays 10 games a year to a community is the name. And they're going to keep the San Francisco name. There's a number of examples of NFL teams that play elsewhere. The Jets and the Giants play in New Jersey. They don't even play in New York State. The same thing with the Dallas Cowboys. So as long as that name is maintained and the city of Santa Clara is willing to allow them to keep the name San Francisco, I think that's the most important thing, and that's why I think that Gavin Newsom's opposition and Dianne Feinstein and Carol Migden's is very much misplaced.
In a lot of ways, the move of the team somewhere else reflects how the Bay Area has changed, doesn't it? That it's not really more of an economic region than it's ever been.
Absolutely. This is the Bay Area region, and the San Francisco 49ers need to stay within the region. And the best place to relocate them, obviously, is the site in Santa Clara. And maintaining the San Francisco name and you know, making a major contribution to the area. It's unlike baseball. Baseball plays 81 games, so it's a lot more of involvement and a lot better attendance. The most attendance that the 49ers will drive is 700,000 people a year, and it's the same 700,000 people because most of them have season tickets. So the identity with the San Francisco 49ers is not going to the games, but it's mainly through TV.
What about the city of Santa Clara, the community itself? How do they feel about this?
Well, from what I can tell, I know the city council and the mayor are very much in favor of it, but you know, the devil's in the details. I mean, they got to work out a financial plan that's acceptable to them. But it's very important that this be a regional effort, that the people in San Jose and the 15 cities in Santa Clara County come on board and be very supportive. And we're trying to put together that structure today, kind of a working group that can meet regularly of corporate people and community people and fans and all those kinds of things that can make sure that when the rubber hits the road on this proposal, that there's substantial fan and community support. So
it's almost really a political effort in the sense that you're building the beginnings of the group that's going to reach out to the community and build support for this effort?
It's always about politics. You know, there's nothing that drives a media frenzy more than relocating a sports franchise someplace else.
So again, the idea is that it's a mistake to think of this as it has to be in San Francisco because San Francisco isn't really what it used to be to the region. It's a portion of the region now, not the center of it.
That's right. It's tilted kind of evenly now. Silicon Valley has almost as much cachet in some ways as San Francisco, although, you know, San Francisco is still everybody's favorite city.
Yeah. Talk about the timing. When will the 49ers start playing there? When will we really know that this thing is moving forward?
Well, you'll know it gradually as they, you know, present the plan to the city of Santa Clara, and they have the normal debates and all you know, meeting the time requirements. But they expect to open the season in 2012. That's about as aggressive as you can be with these things. You know, there's a $600 to $800 million project. All of the financing points have to be put in place, and there will be a substantial, multi-million-dollar contribution on the part of the Yorks to this stadium.
We're running out of time. Let me ask you quickly, is there a chance to use the football metaphor of a Hail Mary for San Francisco? They can still pull something out of the hat and keep the team up there?
Well, they're going to have to offer more than they've got, and that's the site. It has nothing to do with financing. It's just that the sites don't work in San Francisco when they do in Santa Clara.
Larry Stone, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
We're going to be right back and talk to our tech analyst, Mark Albertson. Stay with us.
Since the dawn of civilization, humans have sought knowledge and wisdom. The quest to answer the mystery of life has carried on for thousands of years.
But you can learn all the answers easily. Just watch these amazing high school students on Bay Area Quiz Kids. Each week, 2 teams from across the Bay Area compete for an incredible grand prize. Watch Bay Area Quiz Kids each Saturday at 2 p.m. on KRON.
Whenever there's new innovations or revolutionary technologies, chances are they've got something to do with the Silicon Valley. And that is what Tech Close-Up is all about.
Tech Close-Up is about even more than just bytes and chips. We cover the people in your community. We're all over the Bay Area. To find Tech Close-Up where you live, just go to our website at techcloseup.com.
Okay. All right, that's enough. All right. I've got enough. Come on! Oh, you gotta be kidding me! What the heck? Man!
Welcome back to the game. I'm Mark Simon. He's Bob Marks, and we're joined now by another Mark because we've got to balance this whole table. Right. Mark Albertson, our tech insider, a producer of Tech Close-Up. Thanks for being here.
Sure.
Not too long ago, we had the CES show in Las Vegas. It's always a big show for Apple. Steve Jobs, it's basically his Oscars, and they introduced the iPhone, which set everybody on its ear. But then the backlash was, gee, that's awfully expensive for what you can get elsewhere. I mean, is it the new whiz-bang? Is it the new deal?
Well, there's a lot of hoopla with the iPhone. Of course, it was rolled out in Macworld at the same time that CES was going on in Las Vegas in January. The problem right now, I think, with the iPhone, while it's a great concept, you're combining phone and internet and iPod music, you know, you'd think that's a winner right off the bat. But part of the problems that Apple is going to face with the rollout of this new product, they've got a couple of issues. One, they had a really good year in 2006. A lot of people bought iPods. They're going to roll this new phone out around the middle of 2007 this year. I don't know that a lot of people are going to be looking to buy another iPod. That was one of the reasons why their sales were so good in 2006. While their stock was at $50 around mid-July, it's now upward close to $90. hard to believe that there's going to be a huge market for that. The second slippery slope for Apple really is in the phone market. This is a dangerous business to get into. I mean, let's be honest, our phones are kind of personal to us, you know.
A lot of dead carcasses on the roadside.
A lot of them, you know. One of the more notable ones actually is ESPN. They rolled out their mobile phone service a couple of years ago. It was an absolute bust. They had to get out of it, and it put a nice dent in their earnings in the process. So Apple is on a track where they're going to have to manage this very carefully. Part of the problem they also faced, and I'm not exactly God's gift to marketing, but the day after they announced the iPhone, they were sued by Cisco and Nortel claiming trademark infringement on the name. And I don't know about you, but I think, you know, the day after you roll out a product, the last thing you want are lawsuits by, you know, the strongest networking firm in the world and the strongest telecom hardware maker in the world. Not a good start, at least for right now, for Apple.
Go ahead.
Let me say, because what it does get at is if you see younger people, I got a 23, almost 24-year-old son, and he and all of his friends are on the phone with each other all the time. It is a constant tool for them. So in the sense that it is becoming a centerpiece of technology of their lives, it would make sense that then they would need not to carry another piece for the other centerpiece of their life, the iPod. So in that sense, it does anticipate what people's interests are. And I wanted to get to that question, because that's something that Steve Jobs seems to do, or at least do through Apple, better than anybody, which is figure out what people are interested in having next. Is it just a talent for him? Is it something that he drives through his company, he just takes credit for? How does that work?
Well, Steve is very clearly a very talented executive. He knows his market. He knows the very loyal Apple audience, and they are extremely loyal. It's almost a cult in how people view all the many products that Apple has come out with over the years. He has a knack also for anticipating what the next wave is going to be, and what he's doing with the iPhone is very clearly saying convergence is the way to go. People are not going to want a separate iPod, a separate phone, and connectivity to the internet. They want something that'll give them all three. We're going to get in on the early phase of that, which is very visionary and very smart. I think the question right now for Apple, though, is can they make it financially viable over the next year to 2 years? Will people accept it? And you mentioned the price point. iPhone is being rolled out as a $500 to $600 phone. That's pretty pricey, even at the high end of the cell phone market. And a lot of teenagers and young people that are looking for the latest gadgets may find that price a little hard to accept.
Talk about what else happened at the Computer Electronics Show. What else was there? What other kinds of things are coming onto the market?
Well, CES, you know, understandably is become the convention for the high-tech world now. It's got, you know, it had over 140,000 attendees this year. Over 3,000 companies participated. All of the big names, except for Apple, were there. They had their own convention. And clearly the dominant theme of CES this year was Microsoft's Vista. In fact, during the CES show, Bill Gates is quoted as Vista was the best $6 billion I ever spent. I mean, that's, you know, that's the cost of what it's taken Microsoft to roll this out. This is going to be their new operating system. And as we saw at CES this year, many, many companies are building their products on that system. So it was interesting to see the very rapid influence and adaptation that Microsoft has when they roll out a product of this magnitude.
Explain briefly what it is.
Yeah, Vista is the new operating system that will replace, for those that want to migrate from it, what you might have right now in Windows XP, or if you still have older versions of Microsoft like 98. And it is going to be designed to provide a good platform for all the multimedia tools that are out there. Microsoft is trying to anticipate the need that their users will have for something that will interface more seamlessly with all the video you have, the still photos, all of the music applications on your computer. So Vista is tailored to really be a nice operating system to make the ability to use all those tools much easier and much simpler, hopefully, for those of us who are in the computer world.
What's the overall atmosphere in the Valley, and how much in particular are the controversies over stock options and the timing of them really dragging down some key people and some key companies?
Well, it's becoming more of a significant issue because I don't think a week or two goes by where we don't pick up the newspaper and read a headline about a tech company that is having problems with stock options. And specifically, it involves the subject of backdating. This is where someone grants options at a certain price at a certain date, but they actually set that price a year or more before the date that it was granted, so that it's a lower price, you make more money, and so on. It's a bad practice. The SEC has said you absolutely can't do it, and a number of firms...
a sneaky way to give someone a bonus.
Very much so, absolutely. And it's casting a bit of a pall on the Valley, because the Valley has always prided itself on the ability to encourage entrepreneurship, to encourage people to really take advantage of the spirit of growing new companies by granting stock options. I mean, that's really what people live for. When you cast real doubts about the viability of this, that it might be in fact a rigged game, which is the last thing people want to see, that's a real issue. In the case of Apple, for example, Steve Jobs has had to admit that he was granted, without the permission of the Apple board, over 7 million options over the course of a couple of years, and that's caused some real controversy and heartburn in Apple's case. The SEC has been interviewing him. We don't know how it's going to turn out. In fairness to Steve, you know, he has said he never exercised those options, but a lot of people in the Valley are saying, well, that's kind of like robbing the bank and then saying, well, okay, I'll just give you back the money.
Yeah,
it doesn't look good. Yeah, I never spent it. I mean, it doesn't look good. And that's part of the issues they're dealing with.
We're not going to see some high-tech executives taken away in handcuffs, are we?
I don't think we're going to get to that point yet, unless we come up with some things that are much more egregious and terrible than backdating of options. We are, I think, going to see some real pressure to clean up the compensation committees of publicly held companies here in this Valley. And without naming names, I think there are many companies here in this Valley that know in their heart of hearts they could do a much better job of creating truly independent comp committees on their boards that will take a hard look at making sure that the practices and the checks and balances are in place, so the possibility of even backdating options just won't exist. It won't happen, gone, it won't be an issue anymore for any of these firms.
All you have to do is drive up and down 101 and you get a feeling that Silicon Valley is bouncing back, it's coming back, the traffic is increasing. Is it, you know, how far have they come and how far can they go?
Well, I think the CES show was a great example of that this year. This explosion that we're seeing in the consumer electronics market is driving and fueling a lot of the growth in the Valley right now. And that encompasses a wide range of firms, media platforms, whatever it might be. Just to give you a couple of examples from the CES show, I wasn't sure walking around this year if I was at a consumer electronics show or an automobile show, because there were cars in almost every booth, and they weren't just for show. It was because these firms are making gadgets like in-dash navigation, like very sophisticated search capabilities while you're driving for different things. This is part of the explosion that we're seeing in the Valley, and it's indicative of where this market is headed.
Let me ask you a question about that and start off with the point that Apple dropped the computers from its name. Is that significant? And then the second part of the question is, are a lot of these guys, you mentioned Apple getting into the phone business, a lot of these companies are taking the very risky step of getting into businesses they're not in. They're moving into something that isn't their core business, that they may not understand, and where their brand may not carry the same weight that they're accustomed to.
That's right. I mean, the dropping of the computer from the Apple name is significant because it clearly shows that Apple is trying to move into many more markets other than just the personal computer side. And that's proving to be very lucrative for them. In terms of where these companies are headed, you know, they want to capitalize on the money that's out there. They're trying to follow the money. And if CES showed us anything, the money is going to be in the explosion of personal devices, the fact that desktops are being eclipsed by laptops now, that mobile computing is going to be absolutely the wave of the future, and companies that might have been embedded or locked into a certain platform are clearly now trying to break out of that. They want different technologies that will meet the needs of the consumer user. You know, when you look at just the growth and explosion of this market, a year ago, the average consumer household spent about $1,200 per year, per household on consumer goods. As we start this year, that amount has almost doubled. It's over $2,000. And that's per household. So you can see in just 1 year, when you see growth of that type, you're starting to see more tech companies trying to really capitalize on that.
We've got about a minute to go. Presidential race is right around the corner. What is the high-tech community, what are they looking for in a candidate for president right now? What are the things that they want to hear?
Well, the tech community wants to find someone that clearly is willing to put some economic stability into the country, continue to improve the economy and grow it. I think they also want to look for a candidate that is going to be knowledgeable and interested in creating an environment that will foster growth for many of these firms. And the Valley, you know, will be looking at the presidential races, I think, very carefully. Traditionally, the Valley has usually leaned Republican, but as we've talked about before in this program, they will dance with whoever they think will do the best for them. And I can see the Democrats being an issue in terms of that.
Mark, thanks. Mark, Simon and I will be right back and have some final thoughts. Stay with us.
It's been over 150 years since Wells Fargo first opened for business. Since then, we've enjoyed your community support, and we're passionate about returning it. Every day, Wells Fargo team members roll up their sleeves and donate their time to organizations and charitable groups throughout the Bay Area. Nationally, we've committed even more. In just the past 2 years alone, we've donated over $70 million to support schools and educational programs. It's a commitment we're proud of. Wells Fargo, the next stage.
Since the dawn of civilization, humans have sought knowledge and wisdom. The quest to answer the mystery of life is carried on for thousands of years.
But you can learn all the answers easily. Just watch these amazing high school students on Bay Area Quiz Kids. Each week, 2 teams from across the Bay Area compete for an incredible grand prize. Watch Bay Area Quiz Kids each Saturday at 2 p.m. on KRON.
If you live on the peninsula, there's only one place to get the latest news on business, sports, politics, education, and your community. Peninsula TV, Channel 26, the Peninsula and South Bay's Emmy Award-winning programming resource. For more information or for a programming schedule, go to pentv.tv or call us at 650-637-1936. Peninsula TV, your community programming channel.
Welcome back to the game. It would be nice to be able to take credit for the way these two topics merged as nicely, but it was more an accident that we put these shows together, but maybe it wasn't. It's no accident that the 49ers are moving to Santa Clara for the same reason that Mark Albertson's on this show to talk about what's going on there. It is an economic engine in its own right. And the interesting thing to me is that there are still significant portions of the Bay Area, including most especially San Francisco, who don't understand that yet. That the Bay Area is the Bay Area, that it isn't San Francisco and a bunch of cow towns, that it's really a place that can be a big league city or a big league environment.
Yeah, and you know, I think if you were to poll the residents of San Francisco, poll the Bay Area, they'd rather see the team in Santa Clara. I don't think the residents care. It's really more of a political issue for Gavin Newsom and others not wanting to be tagged with having lost the 49ers.
Well, that's the question. Is there a political damage you get from losing whatever?
Nobody wants to find out.
And does it last, I guess, is the question. Yeah. Well, we'll find out some other show. That's it for today.
I'm Bob Marks.
And I'm Mark Simon. Thanks for being with us, and join us next time on The Game.